And welcome to the Dynasty League Baseball Online How-To Series. I'm your host, Graeme Brown, and I'm here for episode 2 with CEO of Dynasty League Baseball Online, powered by Pursue the Pennant, Mr. Mike Cislinski. Mike, how are you doing this evening?
I am great, Graeme. I am excited about episode 2, and I am here in my home of Brookfield, Wisconsin, here for my spring-summer home. I've been able to go to some Brewer games over at Miller Park, now of American Family Park, so
Incredible.
It's been great. Yep. So let's get at it.
All right. Well, I know we had a great response from the first video. It was obviously a pretty long video because we really went through a lot about how to interact and play game. We actually played a game and showed a lot of features. And so this one is going to be a discussion around one of the very popular aspects of Dynasty League Baseball Online, which is how to play a greatest teams bracket tournament. So a little more focused in what we're going to be discussing, but can you just tell folks a little bit about the greatest teams bracket tournament and, why it's so popular?
Yeah, so the greatest teams bracket tournaments were one of the earliest play modes that we came up with. The very first ones were series, which we covered in episode 1, and then the greatest teams bracket tournaments. So we didn't really have the draft leagues fully developed at that point. And if you can imagine NCAA men's basketball, March Madness, except with the greatest baseball teams of all time, that's what this is all about, where
Right.
Every game is a game 7, and it's incredibly thrilling because it's win or go home.
Right.
Every game, there is no tomorrow. And the brackets are really unique in terms of it's the only play mode with brackets, and it's quick, it's fast, it's fun.
Well, I can tell you, I feel like this is the perfect second episode because as someone who grew up again playing with the board game, it was awesome when I had the current year's cards, right? But then, of course, the next thing I thought of was, wow, wouldn't it be awesome if I could actually play with one of my favorite teams from the past? So, for instance, for me, like the 86 Mets. And so this feature allows you to do that, which I think is obviously a big thrill because most people have a favorite team or a favorite year, and this really unlocks the ability for them to play that experience out. So take it away.
Exactly. I mean, think about, as you grow up, everyone has a really special favorite team, right?
Mm-hmm.
A team that they really identify with, probably won a championship. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it just came close. Mm-hmm. But it's that favorite team. And maybe there's more than one favorite team. That could be. But
right.
It's your chance to play that favorite team and pit it against the other greatest teams of all time.
I will say, as we will find out shortly, I've only had the pleasure of playing in a couple of these, but the other cool piece about this, which I like, is that there are other teams, right, that maybe don't totally stand out to me personally, but when I've played against them, I think, oh my gosh, wow, that Tigers team was actually really good. There's teams that I've kind of forgotten about over the years, and getting the opportunity to play them in some of these tournaments, you're reminded of how good some of them are. So anyway, all that is to say, it's definitely an exciting feature, and let's get started. So we're here on the Dynasty League Baseball Online homepage, and where do we go from here?
Yeah, so just to add what you're saying before we jump in.
Sure.
So in terms of the range of seasons, we start at 1924. So the oldest team is the 1924 Washington Senators with Walter Johnson.
Wow.
And the next oldest is, of course, the famous 1927 Yankees, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. And then we go all the way up to last year. We add interesting greatest teams as we go along. So it's dynamic. I think 84 greatest teams. And depending on the bracket that you sign up for, the biggest bracket is 64 teams. But we have other time slots that might have only 16 teams that are in the tournament.
Got it.
Plenty of teams to choose from. And as you mentioned, there's a great variety of teams, and every franchise is represented. So no matter which franchise you're a fan of, there's a team for you.
That's great. And I wasn't aware, actually, personally, that they went back that far. But what I can say is something you spoke to earlier is, like, for instance, the Mets are my favorite team. So I like the 86 Mets. In one of the tournaments, someone else had taken that team. But what was cool is that there's also, in my case, I was fortunate, there's also the 86 Red Sox, who I knew were a good team because that's who the Mets played in the World Series. So to your point, I know not every year has that component where there's multiple teams. But in many instances, there are other teams from those years as well, right? It's not just a World Series champion for every year.
Exactly. So there could be, like, a great example for me is the 1985 Cardinals, which are part of this greatest teams bracket tournament. They, of course, lost to the 85 Royals, but it probably was if it wasn't the greatest Cardinal team ever, it was one of the greatest, right?
Right.
So they are in there. So I think what we should do is let's get started, and then as I take you through signing up, you'll actually see how to select a team, and you'll see the whole selection, or I think we maybe see the whole selection of teams that you can choose from.
All right, perfectly. Let's do it. So I'm going to navigate.
The first thing you need to do is on that heading there with tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So just click on tournaments. Okay. And then go to view tournaments.
And so this is after you've logged into your account. You're on the home page.
Right. And so someone had a question today about how to sign up. We've already logged in and signed up.
Right.
So we're already in. But your first step is at the top of the page, on the main page, there is a sign up link. You click on that. You put in your email address and password for your account, and you log in.
Right. Absolutely. So I did that moments before we started recording. So I'm just going to hop right in here to view tournaments, and you can see my name. I'm logged in.
Yeah. So let's scroll down, and you can see here are all the upcoming tournaments that we have. So every day, I think there's like 5 or 6 different, and they all have different names. Right now, it's 9:31 Eastern. So there is a Wednesday late night tournament that we could sign up for. Let's go to why don't we try that one, the Wednesday late night, and there's a sign up button there. You can see it's 16 teams, 4 rounds. If you look further down, like the Thursday matinee game at 1:00 or tournament, and then there's 8:00. So there's 2 of them that actually have 64 teams. Now, here's what happens. So on the most popular tournaments, we'll fill every slot. But as we get into the baseball season, people get really, really busy with their private draft leagues.
Right.
And they just don't have time. They're so busy. They might be in 4 different leagues. So, they're just not participating so much in the bracket tournaments. So oftentimes, maybe not often, but we'll have certain greatest teams bracket tournaments, like the one we had in July that was for Sabre 51. So we'll have like sometimes some special guests that will participate, and we'll fill up all 64 slots, in one of the bigger tournaments.
And are these created, like, is Dynasty League Baseball are these set up by Dynasty League Baseball Online, or are these individuals who have set these tournaments up?
No,
these are just always available.
These are always available. We set it up. So these are all every day you'll see the same tournaments that you can and the same time slots. And what I was going to explain is, let's say the tournament that we're going to sign up for here, the Wednesday late night, it has 16 slots. No one signed up for it yet, but when we sign up, let's say only 1 or 2 people sign up. Well, it will automatically downsize the tournament to a 4-team tournament, since there's not 16 teams, right?
Oh, God. Okay.
So, and that's the smallest that you can have. If there's, let's say, 6 people that sign up, it'll downsize it to like an Elite 8 tournament. So think of like Sweet 16. It starts out as, it may be an Elite 8, it may be a Final 4, just depending on how many people sign up. But it does that automatically, which is pretty cool, the way it, sizes it depending on who participates. So let's go to the sign up. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to ask a follow-up question on that one. So if I sign up for it and maybe 2 other people, will there be a computer run team as well? Will it complete?
Yeah, so the empty slot, so let's say we have it downsizes to a Final 4, and there's 3 of us, 3 people that sign up. There will be a computer managed team, and the computer will randomly make their team selection. So you don't know which team they're going to select.
Got it.
So you'll be, one of the opponents will be a computer managed team.
Got it. Okay, totally makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to click sign up for this one right here.
Okay. So let's see if we can actually view the sign up. So then click on the join tournament button there. Okay, let's see if okay, so on the left side, it says available teams. I think we might see this, Graeme.
Yep.
And click on that. Let's see if we see the pull-down menu. Do we see it? No.
Okay, I see it on my screen.
Yeah, but you can't see we can't see the other teams, right? This is just, if you're actually on the site, you'd see them all.
Yeah.
So that's where you go, and there's a pull-down menu. You make the selection, and before you make your selection, why don't you go to one? This is Anaheim. Why don't you go to, let's say, 27 Yankees, Graeme, and you can see that we'll see a different roster.
Got it. And so just so everyone's aware, because the recording of the screen, we don't see this drop-down menu, but you've got Anaheim, Arizona 01, Atlanta, another Atlanta team, multiple Baltimore teams, Boston teams. There's Chicago, AL, and we've got everybody in here, all different years. So I'm scrolling down to you want me to do the 27 Yankees?
Yeah, so there's a lot of Yankee teams. Like I said, I think there's like 84 teams that you can select from. And now you can see on the screen here that the 27 Yankees have been selected. So why don't we go to your favorite is the 86 Mets, right? That was another favorite. Why don't you go to that team?
All right, let's check out the Mets.
So you can kind of scout the teams then, and it gives you like their team on base percentage, slugging, who was the manager. Sometimes there's even some notes about the team. Here for the 86 Mets, if you scroll up a little bit, there you go. You can see notes from 1984 to 1988. New York finished second 3 times and won the NL East in 88. But in 1986, everything came together for Davey Johnson's team. And if you're a Mets fan, no one will ever forget the 86 Mets, right? That was just a team.
Right. Look at that. That's a great roster. Although I will tell you, having used them in a tournament format, it was, the game was different back in the day. So not to get too far off track here, but their bullpen was not very deep, right? So the starters went much deeper into the games. And so I mismanaged when I used them one time and ran out of my pitching staff pretty quickly. So that's a note for people.
You learn a lot by managing teams from different eras, because as you point out, you don't have to go too far back in baseball history, certainly the 80s, but if you go back to the 70s, and we have now or will have all the teams from 67, all the seasons from 67 through 75. And back then, you would have pitchers pitch 300 innings, and they might pitch 25 complete games in a season.
Right.
So,
Totally different
and
style of
so
managing.
you used your bullpen far less, and they might only have 10 or 11 pitchers that they use the whole season.
Right. Yeah.
Which is unthinkable right now because, so it's a whole different thing. Pitchers, just the starting stat rotations oftentimes were 4 pitchers instead of 5. So you see that reflected in some of the endurance ratings too. So some of the with the older teams, like if we go to look at Bob Gibson there as we're scrolling,
Right.
down. So his endurance is 35. That is very high. The highest you could have is 40. So that reflects that you can face 35 batters, and then after that, if he allows 2 batters to reach base, he finally gets tired. Well, that puts him deep into the game. He's not allowing, very many hits. So, so as you point out, you manage very differently. I'll add here, I'll get into something else here. So the rules are the rules that were from that era. So for example, there's no 3-batter rule. So you can, that's something that our draft league just added this year, and it totally changes. I can't believe how much it changes the managerial strategy and how different it is managing. But when you're in bracket tournaments, you're managing with the rules from that era. So keep that in mind. That you're not using, when you're managing the 67 Cardinals, you're not going to see the 3-batter rule. So you're not going to see
or whatever.
So now there could be it's the home team that has the rules. So I will say that. So if it's a more modern team, and if you're playing an American League team from 1972 on when they had the DH, if you're playing in their ballpark, you will use the DH, and you'll see that when you log in. So so it's kind of like if you remember, it used to be the home team had the whatever rules that they had, whether it was AL or NL in the World Series. So that's the same type of philosophy in the tournaments.
I love these notes, by the way, which I think is just really cool in general about playing this game, is that, I know there's a lot of diehard baseball fans that know about all of these teams, but, for myself, for instance, who really got into baseball really in the mid 80s, it's cool to see the notes and just, learn a little more about these teams as you're playing.
I mean, you could just spend some time going through the different notes, right? And learning a little bit about the teams and seeing, the going through the different stats, because those are the team stats.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. So which team do you want me to select? Well, we don't have to be the 86 Mets. I talk about them ad nauseum. Tell me.
Well, okay. So since it's me, my favorite all-time team is between 82 Cardinals or 85 Cardinals. But since I'm in Milwaukee, let's pick 80. I'm sorry, did I say 82 Cardinals? I meant 82 Brewers.
Oh, 82 Brewers.
Between 82 Brewers and 85 Cardinals. So since I'm in Milwaukee, let's pick Milwaukee 1982 Harvey's Wallbangers. And you'll see the rest on that. So this is, if it's not my favorite, it's definitely second favorite, right there with the 85 Cardinals. But wow, this team, no matter what happens in Brewer history, this will be, an iconic team forever. Just they had 5 Hall of Famers on this team. Ted Simmons, Raleigh Fingers, Don Sutton, Paul Molitor, Robin Yount. I mean, there are not too many teams that have 5 Hall of Famers, right?
Right, very impressive.
So it's pretty incredible. Pete Vukovich was the Cy Young winner that year. So it was an incredible team, and that was the season that I went to the most baseball games in person. And it was also the year I worked for the Baltimore Orioles in spring training. I think we talked about that in episode 1. So it was just an amazing year for me. And that was also the year, I think we talked about, in our podcast previously, our first podcast, about how that influenced the 82 season, influenced the whole design of the game, because the game had not even come out in 82, but I was hot on the track. And this team had more to do with, I guess, the impetus and motivation to make this happen than any other factor.
Well, we should add that this kind of era was when you were generating the ideas that would lead ultimately to Pursue the Pennant and then to Dynasty League Online. You mentioned there's a handful of Hall of Famers on here, and so not to bury the lead, but I know that there's another connection that you have to the Hall of Fame. So before we work our way through that, do you want to share a little bit more about how Pursue the Pennant is also involved with the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, so once we came out with the first edition of Pursue the Pennant, it actually featured on the cover of the game box, and subsequently on our current Dynasty League Baseball editions, the Game 5 ALCS 1982 celebration where the fans ran onto the field. And I'm one of those fans.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm in the photo somewhere.
That's awesome.
On the field, okay? And for me,
bonus points if you can find Mike.
That was the most exciting baseball game. I've been to a lot of games, but that one, if you were there, you would remember it forever. And you can't describe what it was like unless you were actually there. But it was surreal. It was like time had stopped when you saw that final out, and everything was in slow motion. That's the best I can describe it. And you're seeing people running onto the field, and you're just like it's dreamlike, I guess is the word for it. It's like you're in a dream.
Yeah.
So it was really an amazing, impactful, emotional experience. I will never forget it. Never forget that team. Never forget my connection to the players on that team. We talked about in the previous podcast how some of those players from the Wall Bangers helped start the game. So with that first edition of the game, we went. I actually did not go, but one of the other people in our organization went to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and we presented it to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and it is in the permanent. It's a signed game that I signed. Game number hand signed, one of 5,000. And it's in the permanent archives of the Hall of Fame. So even though I don't have a bronze plaque and I'm not inducted in the Hall of Fame, that first edition of Pursue the Pennant, and subsequently I think the second edition is in there, and the first edition of Dynasty Baseball is also in there. I think those 3 editions are all part of the permanent archives of the Hall of Fame.
That's incredible. Right
next to Babe Ruth's glove and his bat,
exactly.
Somewhere in there. I don't know how these. I think we talked about before the podcast. Graeme and I were talking about, and I told him that for the first time ever, I think this is going to happen. That I'm going to go to the Baseball Hall of Fame here end of September. So I think I might be able to meet with the registrar or curator of the museum and actually get to see where they're storing all of our games.
I was going to say they're probably going to do the special location that it's. I told you that we're going to petition everyone that plays Dynasty League Online that you do get the buffed in there. I believe that not only should the game be in there, but maybe we can get something else in there for you too. But
well, I'm not going to hold my breath that I'll get infected. That's for sure.
Still incredible, and I can't believe I didn't know that and that we didn't cover it before. But just goes to show you that really it is a piece of baseball history. So congratulations on that. But all right, okay. So we're going to select the wall bangers now. So we're going to attack here for the tournament. So just
click the select button there.
Okay.
And what is our time? Okay, I'm showing 9:48 Eastern. Okay,
yes.
So what is going to happen? And sometimes people ask this question. So we're the only sign up right now, but the bracket tournament will lock out 5 minutes before the scheduled time. So we have a 10 p.m. Start time for the tournament, and 5 minutes before that, no one else can sign in. That it's locked in, and then what will happen in those 5 minutes between 9:55 and 10 o'clock, you will see the bracket come up. It will automatically create a bracket, and you'll be able to see the entire bracket for the tournament, who's all playing, who your opponent is in the bracket, and what your path is to win, the whole thing. Now, this might only be like a Final Four tournament, but if you have like a 64 team bracket that we'll go and show people, it's pretty impressive and fun just to look through the bracket. So why don't we do that now?
Okay.
We've signed up for the tournament, so once we get to we can maybe check back in here.
Come back in, right?
We're doing this all live here, so we can maybe check back at 9:56.
Okay.
And check in and see how our bracket's coming. And also you can see there's a change team button. And if you want to leave the tournament, you just click leave tournament, and then you can let other people join. So we would just go back to click on tournaments here. And then if you scroll down, you will see your recently completed tournaments right there. So if you click on that, now Graeme was in the Sabre 51 greatest teams bracket tournament that we had, and there it is, that we had, and that was one of the ones that we filled the whole tournament up. So we had 64 teams, and you can see Olin Simpson from Illinois was the winner.
He beat me in the quarterfinals, by the way. I'll just point that out.
Yeah, and actually Olin was one of the live people. We had a combination of people all over basically the world, right? I mean, that they were able to play, but we had a contingent of people at the Sabre 51 convention in Chicago that were playing. I think it was on the 6th floor. So there was maybe 6, 7 of us around a table, and we all had our computers and laptops out, and we were all playing live together, amongst all the other online people. So that was pretty cool. So so you can just click on the bracket button there, and I wanted to show everyone how the brackets work. So there it is. So this is what you'll see. You'll see this in those 5 minutes I talked about before the tournament starts. You won't, now this is all filled out, so the tournament's over.
Right.
But after the bracket tournament is over, you can go back and look at the whole bracket. You can see round 1, all the different matchups. Now let's go to where you were, Graeme.
Yes.
Go to your.
I was down here, and
a lot of 64 teams, so it's like I said, it's like March Madness. We've got the whole bracket here. It shows the champion. If you scroll a little bit further down, you can scroll down. There you go. Managed by Olin Simpson, Detroit. He had Detroit 2006. And, the fun part about this is these are all great teams, right? But since we're only playing one game, the matchups are real important.
Right.
How these teams match up. Any team can beat any other team. These are all great teams. So you may think you've got this great team, and you do, but you're playing against another great team. They may have a hot pitcher, they may have someone, they may even have a bench player or some unknown utility player hits a 3-run home run. It's a key play. And because it's a one game, you have to win to move on. This is not like a series. In order for you to advance in the tournament, it's one game. It's just like March Madness, NCAA basketball. There is no tomorrow. Every game is a game 7. So the pressure and excitement is unparalleled. It's really fun just because of that.
I got to tell you, this is one of the first ones that I played, and I remember the games. So this first round went to extra innings against the 17 Dodgers. I'm not going to go through every game for everybody, but I'll go quickly.
Well, okay.
We pulled it out.
So now that you're mentioning that, so why don't you mouse over your team?
Okay.
Over the team name. You see see how it shows that you're Graeme from Long Beach, California? Okay. Now mouse over Los Angeles 2017. Okay, so you played against the computer manager. If you were playing against a person, you would see who you played against. Now go and click on the score, either the 5 or the 4. And click on that.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to see the box score.
So see, we went to 13 innings.
That game. Yeah, 13 innings.
I got a run in the 13th.
Yeah, so you can go back for every game in the tournament, look at the box score. There's also a game summary, and maybe we can go back to that if you can click on the summary button right there. And it goes and gives you the play-by-play summary of the entire game. And see that graph there? That is the win probability graph. So if you're like a Fangraphs fan, that's kind of like right out of that. So if you put your mouse over, let's say, any point on that graph, Graeme, you'll see the percentage that you have of that Los Angeles had of winning. So they had a 73% chance there in the top of the 9th when Anderson was at bat.
I didn't know you could see the actual action within the game. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So here's Wade Boggs hit a home run to put me up 5-4 in the 13th.
And there was a 15% chance of Los Angeles at that point. And you can see finally towards the end, 4% chance of Los Angeles winning. I have to add this because this was a really exciting moment. I was playing in our private draft league, our Sunday Night Baseball League, which we'll talk about in our final episode. But I was playing Josh Nelson. Josh has been a fan for a long time, and he's Boston. I'm St. Louis. These are all draft teams anyways. But in the win probability graph, you'll see that in the bottom of the 9th inning, there was 2 outs. I had nobody on base. I'm down by 2. My win probability was 1%. I won the game.
Amazing.
I won the game with a 1% win probability in the bottom of the 9th. And then get this. So the game was tied then. So I tied the game. We went into extra innings. Then we went into the 10th inning. Josh's Boston team hits a home run by Luke Voigt. They go up by 1 run. Well, then I'm up in the bottom half of the 10th, and I only have an 18% chance of winning this time, and I have a walk-off win.
Amazing.
So I won the game twice with miracle comebacks. The first one was a 1% chance. Second one, 18% chance. But that's kind of the fun of seeing these win probability graphs, and you can put your mouse over any of the location and just see what your chances are. But in a game like that, it's really fun because, you see like, oh my God, I had a 1% chance of winning that game.
Well, look, they had a 93% chance right here. So I only had a 7% chance in the bottom of the 8th inning.
Yeah.
So and I scored 2 in the top of the 9th. Yeah, I love that. I love being able to go back and click into these box scores because this was, the Saber 51 was a couple months ago now. So from the point where we're
We
recording,
live.
I remember the games. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And
All
this
right.
is all saved there. It doesn't go away. So you'll always be able to click on that link and see your tournaments. So let's go back again. Oh, let's go quick to our to the tournament that we signed up for.
Okay. So should I go home?
Yeah, go back to home. Go back to tournaments. Go back to tournaments. Oh, okay. So yeah, okay. So you can see now that here's our where it says your current tournaments, Wednesday late night. So there it appears. So go to the bracket, click on the bracket, and there's our bracket for the tournament.
Got it. Looks like Detroit's already advanced.
So we're going to be playing Kansas City 77 in the first round, and you can see the 84 Tigers and the 70 Twins. Looks like they've already started.
Yeah, so, it looks like they've already finished. It's like Detroit already.
They finished, yeah. So because it's a computer managed game, it'll finish right away. So the winner will play Detroit. You can see they already advanced. So yeah, so my clock might be a little bit off. I'm showing 9:59, but as soon as it hits, it might even, because both are computer managed, it might simulate right away. It probably did.
Got it.
Yeah, so you can see like how that all works. So and then
I just click Detroit 84 and it takes me right to their team, so I can see who it is I'll be playing. And this looks like it shows the statistics from the tournament.
So that's the next thing I was going to show. So maybe you can go back to that and show where you clicked on.
Yeah, so I was just looking at
it shows cumulative stats. So if you click on the team name there, not the score, but the team name.
Now, would you prefer that we do it for this one? It'll show one game's worth, and then maybe we can show the Saber one where it's got more rounds.
Yeah. Well, let's go back just so they can see. So click on that one. So where it's Detroit 94, that will show you the cumulative stats for your entire series. Now, since they've only played one game, we only see the one game. But that's where you can see your cumulative stats for the series.
So that's on fire.
Yeah, so he had a big series. So
Jack Morris, not surprisingly, did well.
Yep.
In the tournament.
Right. And the pitching rotations are pretty crucial in these bracket tournaments, right? Because your first round, everyone's got their number one starter for the most part, although I've heard of some people kind of changing their strategy and maybe they go with like their number two starter. So there is a little bit of strategy. Of course, you take that gamble and you may not make it to the second round, right?
Right. Well, that's what I was telling you. Like, I made it so Bruce Hurst game 2 was great. Oil Can Boyd stepped up in game 3 in the Saber tournament, but then I ran out of people and I did not manage well. So you have to think about that when you're in those longer tournaments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, so that let's go back to the tournament again.
Okay.
And I want to show like how you could actually go to home plate. Okay. Oh, here. See what don't go there. See where it says don't click on it, but see where it says join game. That's where you actually join the tournament.
Got it.
And you'll click with your opponent. And if you look at episode 1, you'll see, how to play a game against another opponent. And we go through all that in detail. But that's how you join the game. Just by clicking that join game button, you'll be outside the park. You go inside the park, and away you go. So that's how the greatest teams bracket tournaments work. So I think we took everyone through like how to sign up, how to join the tournament, how to look at the bracket. So I think we really covered that well. I'm glad that we could show people the live bracket, as it was created.
Yeah.
And we're actually watching the the tournament here now. So it's going to kind of play out. If we don't join the game and if we don't play this, because we're not going to play it, the computer manager will take over eventually, and it will play out the series, and it will determine the tournament without us. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so the series, the tournaments all get played. Like if someone has to leave, the computer manager takes over. So you have to have that, because if people leave, the tournament can't just stop, right?
Right. Makes sense.
So it all has to continue. And as you go to each round, what's important is that you can look at the bracket and you can see, okay, my opponent that's come, you may have finished your game first, right? So like 80, if Detroit 84 was a person, they could watch our game and see at what inning we are and follow our game to see, where they are and, when this next series or next round is going to start, right?
Yes.
So they'll have an idea of when the next game is coming up. And then they'll see the join game button come up for round 2, and then they'll be able to click on that when the round 2 game is ready to go. When there's a round 1 opponent has finished.
I really appreciated that because I was able to say like, oh, I have a few minutes. I'm going to go get a snack in between before my next game. And it would say like they're in the 7th inning, and I could just click right into their games where they are. That was really helpful. So
exactly.
That feature.
So you know exactly where they are, and you can look at their box score in real time too.
Right.
So, and that's one of the things that we didn't get to in series because we only have that one game. But the cool thing about the online version is you can watch other games in progress. So during the tournament, not only can you watch the ends, but you can watch games going on in real time, any game you want during the tournament, just by clicking on the score. So you see the scores, they're just like scoreboard watching. The scores are going to change, they're going to update in real time for the tournament. But if you click on the score, you can go to the game summary, and you can even watch it batter by batter.
That's awesome. I think it's really helpful, and especially again, when you're in that tournament and you're thinking about, oh, okay, I'm going to play one of these 2 teams. So that's what I was doing. I was spending a few minutes almost like scouting them to see, I can look at their previous box scores and see who pitched, and then I could see what was happening in their current game. So like I got a little scouting in while I was playing.
And if you can see who's pitch or who's pitching.
Right.
You won't face that pitcher, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about, so you can kind of figure out who they might pitch next and plan, your lineup and what you might want to do for the next game. So I guess we can go back to the bracket. We were going to go back to that, right, and show more of that where we can see all your completed tournaments again. And we'll go back to the 64 team one here. So as I was mentioning, so this is the completed tournament. If you click on this again, if you click on the score, here we have at the final game, Detroit 2006 against Cleveland 54. If you click on the score, that takes you to the box score and the game summary. If you click on the team itself, let's go back.
By the way, I'll just note I love the download feature. I download these and I send them to my brother and
you can download the box score in HTML format, right? And you can
great.
Or what you can do, you see that there's a URL for this box score.
Just copy and paste it.
You copy and paste that.
Oh, cool!
So you don't even have to download it. Just copy and paste it, and then send that URL.
Much easier. Look at that. Every time we do a video, I learn like 25 things.
Yeah, and that's true of pretty much anything at the site. If you want to send, a box score for a game, I just posted that game I was talking about when I had the come from behind victories on our Facebook group, and I just copied the URL, and everyone could view the win probability graph and the box score and everything. So
nice, excellent. That's good to know.
So yeah,
All
so
right.
it's great. It's very easy to share stuff, you know.
Yeah, I'd like to see more of that. I'm gonna ask the Dynasty League Online folks to share more on Facebook. I mean, it's fun to see these games. You know, it brings back, like I said, like some of these matchups that we had in here. I feel like there's an interest, because when I send them to my friends, they're like, "Oh, wow, that's so cool." You know?
Well, yeah. So what you should do is you should go, hey, you know, by the way, I was in the, you know, Saber 51
I
tournament.
know.
Here's the game I was in that went 13 innings. You know, check it out. You'll get a lot of response from people. You know,
I
they'll
know.
look at it or whatever and talk about, you know, what you enjoyed about it. So.
Yeah.
But let's go back. I just want to show again how to see cumulative stats, because people ask about this. So we finished our tournament. Let's look at Detroit 2006. Let's look at the last final game there that they had against Cleveland. Scroll up. Oh, I think we'll still get it. Okay, so it does show the 6 games. So I don't know if you could see that, but Graeme clicked on the team name. Detroit 2006. So you can just show that again right there. Just click on Detroit 2006. That's how you get to the cumulative stats. And you'll see your cumulative stats for the entire team. And you can see there's your batting. And Graeme, you can kind of flip over to show people pitching, where it says type there, right there. And you flip over and there's pitching. So you'll get the pitching. So they had a 3.33 ERA for the staff. For that. So
yeah, I distinctly remember getting battered around by this lineup. As I mentioned, they beat me pretty handily. So let's see, I'm getting flashbacks here seeing this lineup. Pretty formidable.
Yeah,
11 home runs, pretty good.
That is for a short tournament. Marcus Thames had 3 home runs.
On fire.
Ordonez had a home run. So Ordonez had a OPS of 1.315, hit 458. So I guess MVP, at least for maybe not the whole tournament, but he was certainly MVP of the Tigers there.
Oh, 100%. And it looks like, so for these, interesting. You go all the splits. You can see how they did.
Yeah, so you can go to the splits. We can show that.
Okay, let's see versus righties. Let's see versus lefties, actually.
Yeah, so this is versus lefties. So you'll see how your team did against lefties. So this will just break down the versus lefties. So you couldn't see that because the pull-down windows don't show up on the podcast, but or on the YouTube. Here, we're not podcast, YouTube. But yeah, so you can see like versus lefty split versus righty, runners in scoring position, 2 out. So a lot of the standard split you'd see on Baseball Reference, you're seeing those same type splits here. So yeah, so that's how you see cumulative stats. And this is the same, you see the same, once you know how to do this, you know how to do it for all the play modes. So if you're doing a series, this works the exact same way as greatest team bracket tournaments. If you're in a public greatest teams league, works the same way. Or if you're in private draft league or season replay, it works that way. So
that's great. Same functionality all across the different modes. That's awesome. Awesome.
So one other thing I think that we can talk about here, we covered the greatest teams bracket tournaments. One of the, and this is a more of a beginner type of introduction when you're first starting out. This is a great way to learn how to play against other people for the first time in multiplayer. It's a great way to learn the game. We'll go over to these are like entry level leagues, but if we go to the new league and select greatest teams leagues, these are public leagues and they're more for beginners And what they are is you go and you select, we can go to the join button, I guess. This is Greatest Teams East 5. You can see the people who've signed up. You'll be able to just select one of the same greatest teams in the Greatest Teams Bracket Tournament. Same exact teams, except you're going to be playing a 162 game season. You can see in the league info, there will be 12 teams in the league. There'll be 6 AL and 6 NL. You'll play a 162 game season just in your league. There's no interleague play. So you're playing a lot against the same people. And then just like, when there was 12 teams or 16 teams, at that point in history, the winner is the AL pennant winner and the NL pennant winner, and they meet in the World Series. That's the only playoffs that there is the World Series. So you're competing in your division to win the pennant and go to the World Series. But this is a great way to introduce yourself to being in a league. There's no draft. These are all stock teams. You're just taking your favorite team, playing in a 162 game season. You'll see how the schedule works. The way the scheduling works, and people kind of get confused about this, is there are set times. So the game times you can see are Monday at 8 p.m. and Thursday at 8 p.m. Now, if you can't make that date, you can go ahead and reschedule that particular time, and there will be a schedule request, and that will be sent to your opponent, and they can go and say, yeah, I can instead play on Tuesday at 9 p.m. And they'll just reply to you. And it's all done through your messages that are on the top there. You'll just get a message, and it'll say, so you can go ahead and change. Now, it's important. This is one of the most important rules. Okay, so if you have a game coming up at Monday at 8 p.m., it is just a common courtesy to let your opponent know if you cannot make the game. Okay, if you can't make the game, just send either a message or, even better, send a reschedule request about when you can make the game. Or if you even can't make that particular series, that's fine. Just tell them, hey, look, I can't make the series. I'm busy this week. Go ahead and play the series without me. And you'll be able to do that. Your opponent will be able to do that. Your computer manager, which you can set up with your basic parameters that you want to have it managed for you, will manage for you in that series. And these are all series that you're playing. And then you can, on Thursday in the next series, if you're able to play that series, fine. You can just meet at the scheduled time. So those are your options: to play at the scheduled time, or reschedule for another time, or the third option, have the computer manager take over for you. But just communicate with your opponent what's happening. If you're going to make it the scheduled time, there's nothing that you have to do. It's assumed, or should be assumed, that you're going to be there at the scheduled time. Just like, if we're in MLB and our Mets are playing the Cardinals, and if it's an 8 o'clock game, we're going to be there, right, Graeme?
Right, 100%.
If the team is not going to show up, I mean, can you imagine that, the team not showing up? So after, the fans are there, you got 40,000 fans of the game, and the team doesn't show up. So just remember, if you can't show up, well, at least let the person know you're not going to be there, and then they won't be waiting for you, because there's an option too. Once you and I think we went through this in series, but if the person doesn't show up after I think it's 5 minutes after game time, so this is an 8 o'clock game time, you'll see a pop-up screen, and it will say basically play the game against the computer manager is one option. The other option is wait 5 minutes more for your opponent to arrive. Okay. And then you'll see it all count down. There's like a timer. Okay.
And I found, to your point, that like most people are willing to make an adjustment, right, for those. And then, also, this is a great way to do the league, and you get to use the greatest teams. And then what we walked through before is a little more of a, hey, if I'm winning in this tournament, 64 games, I know how much time I'm going to need for this day, right? If I keep winning.
Right.
And for these, hey, the expectation is it's Monday and Thursday at 8 p.m. But if not, you can just reach out to these people. As you can see, they're all real people who have lives, and they understand sometimes you have to make a change. But otherwise, if not, you'll be there at 8 o'clock. Maybe that just works.
I think the scheduling feature is one of the coolest features in the game. And I give Jamie a huge amount of credit for how he designed that, because it makes so much sense and gives you those 3 great options, for because we're setting up these live tournaments. And the beauty of it is that with your league, the start of it and the end of it is certain. There's no uncertainty in terms of the start date and the end date of when the league, everything in the league runs like clockwork.
Right.
And that's because of the scheduler. So if both players don't show up for that particular game, the computer managers play against itself, and then we go on to the next series. So it's all, automated in terms of moving the league along. So
I was going to say, keeping it moving, so it's not like just in case
someone the league will not get stuck, and it will end exactly. I think it may tell you what says 22 weeks plus playoffs. So, but yeah, when you see that when the league actually launches, you'll see your league page come up, and you'll get a message saying, "Here's your league page." It'll show on the site. And you'll actually see the schedule, and it'll tell you the actual date when the league ends, and you'll see the whole schedule of every series that's being played.
That's awesome. We'll have to do that. We'll have to dive into one of those in our next video, and get into a little more of the league functionality.
Yeah. So our episode 3 will get into I think we have season replays is our next. So we'll get into that, and we'll get into more of how leagues work. But this is the first time we've actually talked about leagues. So this have a little bit of, this is the introductory. The public, and like I said, it's public leagues. These are not private leagues. There's no commissioner. There's no draft. It's very simple, straightforward. So, a little
more accessible for someone who's just learning about the game.
Yeah, you're just learning. The sign up is easy. You're not. So private leagues much more involved, where, and we'll talk about those in episode 4. But in private draft leagues in episode 4. So,
got it. I love it. A little teaser, a little appetizer for people to look forward to. Well, awesome. I again learned a bunch, which is not a surprise. That's going to be a recurring theme on these videos. But was also very proud to show off, even though I didn't win it. I feel good about showing off my tournament results from the greatest teams tournament, the Saber 51 event.
Did very well in that Saber 51 tournament, Graeme. I give you props.
I appreciate that, and I am proud, even though I did not win. So it should entice me to join more of these and maybe try to bring home a championship, and then I'll actually have something to be boastful about. But anyway,
and when you go back, let's go back to tournaments here.
Sure.
So you can see in the champion shows up there. So these are the completed tournaments. So if you scroll down a little bit more,
I see. Got it. Yeah,
you can see Jim P. from Illinois won the 4 p.m. tournament. Jeremy Gibbs from St. Peters, Missouri, he won the 8 p.m. Baseball Reference Nightly tournament. if you click on the bracket, you'll see the team that they had and their whole path to winning. So yeah, Jeremy is a huge fan, and I hope he watches this this YouTube podcast. But he's a huge fan of the St. Louis 1942 Cardinals.
Wow.
So I think every tournament he selects the 1942 Cardinals. He's a huge fan, which is pretty cool.
It sounds like his pitching.
They had Stan Musial on that team. So
wow, look at that.
Yeah,
Mort Cooper by Mort Cooper.
Mort Cooper was their Cy Young winner, I believe. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Shout out to the 40s.
I just wanted to mention that you'll get your props. You'll show up as a champion on the tournament board. So I'll be looking, and I always glance through, like, okay, what's happened to tournaments, who won.
Mm-hmm.
So if I see you as a champion, I'll definitely have to personally congratulate you.
So shout out to Jim, Jeremy, and Ray.
Yeah, so shout out to Jim, Jeremy, and Ray. You're for recently completed tournaments, you guys have been the champions.
And I'm coming for you soon. Say that now that I've learned how I can enter these on a daily basis.
There you go.
All right, cool. Awesome. Thanks, Mike, as always. I really appreciate it. And again, we'll have another one of these hopefully in the next few weeks. And maybe we'll also get to check in and see how your experience was at the Hall of Fame and see if you get to see where the Pursue the Pennant Game 1 lives. So we'll check back in and get your instant reaction.
That's great.
All right. Take care, Mike.
Okay. Have a good night.